Look at this clip. In Dhule, Maharashtra, Shiv Sena UBT party people barged into an SBI and assaulted a staff member. Why? Because the manager refused to speak in Marathi and misbehaved with a customer who asked him to. So the party workers took out their anger on this employee. Here's another one.
बट क्यों जबरदस्ती मराठी बोलने का? पण क्यों? कौन बोला इसे? नहीं आते तो फिर नहीं ऑर्डर करने का ना? हाँ? नहीं देने का ना पैसा? हाँ ठीक है ठीक है.
A couple refused to pay a pizza delivery guy because he wouldn't speak in Marathi. Another Kalesh.
He's Karnataka, madam.
Okay, so this is India.
Huh? India ಅದು ಈ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮೈನ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಈಗ ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು
I will not speak Kannada first.
ಮಾತಾಡೋದೇ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾತಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಯಾಕೆ ಹಿಂದಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್
This is from Karnataka, where an SBI branch manager vehemently refused to speak Kannada while the customer got aggressive. It's worth asking at this point of time, why are these incidents involving differences in different languages becoming so frequent? Every other day we are seeing conflicts like this happening in different states around the country. Because whether you're a migrant worker, a tourist, a driver, or a Zomato guy, chances are if you are in the wrong place at the wrong time, speaking the wrong language, well, you're in trouble. So, I thought it's worth going deep into this language war to try and make sense of it. This is a video about the way we speak, or rather, the way we are told we should speak. This is a video about why people get so emo when it comes to their own language. This is a video about a subtle war underway in India, the language war. On that, I have a bunch of thoughts. एक्स IAS ऑफिसर कनन गोपीनाथननी एक पॉडकास्टवर सांगितलं की आपण 3 प्रकारच्या भाषा वापरतो. भावनांची भाषा, संधीची भाषा आणि प्रादेशिक संधीची भाषा. Did you get that? Did you understand it? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I was speaking in Marathi, by the way. But if you didn't, how did that make you feel? Was that unfamiliar, alienating, a little frustrating? Were you confused? Alright, now imagine that feeling every single day when you are just trying to live your life. You know, order food, get on a bus, open a bank account. And while you're doing that, someone tells you,
What? You don't understand Marathi? Speak the local language or get out. Marathi माणूस जागा झाला रे.
I found this amusing clip from 10 years ago which would make my point a little better. This is from an NDTV debate. This Tamil gentleman is trying to passionately argue in favor of multiple languages.
Even because before independence, the large umbrella movement of Congress very correctly recognized that India is a country of different nationalities. It recognized different linguistic nationalities exist in this country and a federal polity has to be created. It was very well recognized before 47. But when the constitution was framed, this federalism was given a go-by. As far as Hindi is concerned, in Tamil Nadu, we have always opposed imposition of Hindi, but never opposed anybody learning any language of their choice.
Then this lady steps in to argue in favor of Hindi.
चित्रा जी,
जो कुछ बातें अभी हमारे तमिलनाडु के भाई ने कही यहाँ पर वो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है. आज़ादी के पहले और आज़ादी के बाद भी ये विरोध हुआ कि हम पर हिंदी थोपी न जाए.
And then this happens.
और उसके लिए 15 साल जेटली जी ने जैसा 15 साल का वक्त दिया.
அவங்க என்ன பேசிட்டு இருக்காங்கன்னு எனக்கு தெரியல. இப்போ அவங்க என்ன பேசிட்டு இருக்காங்கன்னு எனக்கு தெரியாம நான் எப்படி அவங்க பேசிட்டு இருக்கிறது நான் பதில் சொல்ல முடியும்? எனக்கு தெரியாத ஒரு மொழியில அவங்க பேசிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அவங்களுக்கு தெரியாத ஒரு மொழியில நான் பேசிட்டு இருக்கேன். இப்ப நான் என்னுடைய மொழியில தான் இங்க பேசுறது முடிவு பண்ணேன்னா இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை தொடர்ந்து நான் தமிழ்ல பேசுறேன், அவங்க ஹிந்தியில பேசிட்டோம், நம்ம தாராளமா நிகழ்ச்சி நடத்தலாம். Let me submit it for you in English. if she goes to speak on in a language which I don't understand, and if I can speak in a language which she can't
मैं
understand,
आपको
this program cannot go on.
मैं आपको ये
And
बताना चाहती हूँ कि
I
मैं
demand
तमिलनाडु
that
में
she be
जन्मी
translated for my
हूँ, मैं
purpose.
चेन्नई में जन्मी हूँ.
Did you see what happened there? Yeah, that right there is the core of this entire debate and this video also. So, allow me to go back to the very basics right at the beginning. That's what we do on this channel. We start from the very basics. Some of the things I say right now, especially, will sound very obvious, but bear with me, it will all make sense in the end when it all comes together very beautifully. Language at its core is not about pride. It's about communication. Yeah, we are social animals. We gossip, we yell, we negotiate rent, we flirt, we yell some more. Language is just a tool we use to do all of that. It's not sacred, it's not divine, it's just functional. Kannan Gopinathan did a podcast with Kunal Kamra last month where he broke it down very nicely. He said most of us use 3 kinds of languages in our daily lives. Number 1, language of emotion. That's usually your mother tongue, the one you fight in, cry in, think in, all of those things. Second is the language of opportunity. For most urban Indians, this is English. It gets you the job, it opens up the rest of the world for you. Third is the language of regional opportunity. That's the dominant language spoken where you live. It helps you belong, it helps you navigate the environment and operate wherever you are living. So, for me, Marathi is my emotional language. It's the language I use with my parents and sister and family. It's also the language I use to yell at my cousins when they steal my bhakarwadi. Do not, I repeat, do not steal my bhakarwadi. भाकरवडी चोरी केली ना तू तर एक कानाखाली इतक्या जोरात लावीन ना तुला समजणारी नाही, तुझा कान असा वाजायला लागेल तुझा, कळलं का? भाकरवडी नाही खायची माझी. Emotional stuff. English is what I use right now to talk to you. Okay, pause. I have to say something. A lot of you, some of you, especially foreigners, have been mentioning how my accent is very strong. Legit, I speak this way. I just use this as English. When you say, oh, use the correct accent, what the hell is a correct accent? Is this a correct accent for you? Tea, muffin? Or do you want me to speak like this, like an English British gentleman who colonized us? See, that sounds bad, doesn't it? This is much better. Anyway, going back. So English is what I'm using to talk with you right now. Because let's face it, this is YouTube. English is the language of international opportunity and reach. The language of CPMs and algorithms. The language of internet hustle. I'm using this language to enter the international bread tuber market, the video essay market. Okay, that's why. And Hindi, for me, that's just survival. I live in Delhi, I deal with auto drivers, chaiwalas, government officials, and sometimes a Thar cutting me off in traffic. In that moment, I become the most Delhi version of myself.
ए हरामी, तू जानता नहीं मेरा बाप कौन है?
Just survival things, just Delhi things. So, these 3 languages, they are not in conflict for me. They are complementary. They serve different purposes in different contexts and environments. As I said, language is a tool you use to communicate. It's contextual. You see, language is never just a tool. It's also a mirror. In philosophy, this is known as linguistic relativity. In the idea that the language you speak shapes how you think. Your words affect your worldview. Plato thought language was a shadow of thought. Then Nietzsche came in, flipped the whole argument around and said, language is what shapes thought itself. In his view, we don't just speak languages, we think in them. And that affects how we understand reality. Have you ever wondered which language you think in? I mostly think in English now, but I also find myself switching between Hindi and Marathi from time to time. My dreams are mostly in Marathi and English. It's a mix of it. Languages affect how we understand reality. There's even data on this. Languages with gendered nouns like Hindi, Marathi, or German can influence how we see objects and also our perspective on gender. A table can feel masculine or feminine depending on what your language tells you. In India, that's not just a fun trivia fact, it's a daily lived reality. Here's a mind-blowing thought. A Bengali person, a Tamilian, a Punjabi, they don't just speak different languages, they inhabit different cognitive and cultural worlds. Different metaphors, different value systems, different humor, different realities altogether. So, when we talk about someone's language of emotion, we are literally talking about how their brain is wired to feel. And when we tell someone that their language is not good enough or not useful here, we are not just rejecting a tool, we are rejecting their way of being, their very identity. That's why this whole language conflict thing feels so deeply personal. It's not about words, it's about identity. And if we don't understand that simple fact, we'll keep mistaking the need for communication as an excuse for cultural domination. So let's not do that. I guess let's not, please. Let's not do that. Have some tea and muffin. Oh god, I'm hating that accent even more than the one that I already have right now. Let's ask a deeper question. What happens when language stops being about communication and starts being about control? Because that's when we move from communication to coercion. We start a side quest meta battle in this language war that we are in right now. It's called... Remember that NDTV clip I was showing you earlier? Remember that lady who insisted on speaking only in Hindi in a room full of multilingual people during an English debate? You'd think she was trying to derail the debate, but no. That was linguistic dominance in action, and it happens more often than we'd like to admit. It holds our memories, our humor, our swear words, our slang, lullabies, all of that. Or as civil rights activist Cesar Chavez says, our language is the reflection of ourselves. A language is an exact reflection of the character and growth of its speakers. That's why people get so emo about their languages. Because when you mock someone's language, you're mocking who they are. You're mocking their existence. But in India, this pride takes a whole new shape. It becomes political. Most of the states in India have been formed based on language, which means language isn't just cultural, it's a territorial issue as well. So when political parties want to form blocks of voters, it becomes an obvious choice for them to play up the protect our language card. Think about it this way. In Maharashtra, we have two main parties that are known for playing up language. Maharashtra Navnirman Sena and Shiv Sena. Wait, I mean 3 because Shiv Sena split into 2. I mean the original and the split away, so 3. And the new Uddhav Thackeray one is actually doing the language drama now, which we saw. It's very confusing. But the point is, these parties raise the language flag against national parties coming into state. Parties like BJP who are trying to push Hindi onto a population. So language, as a result, in places like Maharashtra and everywhere else, becomes a political battle between regional identity and national pride. Both parties carve out their voters and pit them against each other because, well, votes. We can go further back in time and see the same pattern, by the way. Take Tamil Nadu. Their resistance to Hindi isn't new. It dates back all the way to 1930s. That was when the Congress tried to make Hindi compulsory in Madras presidency schools. There were massive protests that followed. People were jailed, beaten, some even self-immolated themselves. That's how deep the resistance to imposition ran. And even now, they've consistently refused the 3-language formula being pushed by the center onto schools. It's not because they hate Hindi, but because they see the imposition as a threat to their identity. So, practically all regional parties in Tamil Nadu play up this language angle when they get a chance, especially when it comes to preventing BJP from making a headway in their vote share in the state. And they're not alone. Maharashtra, Karnataka, Bengal, Punjab, all of them have seen some version of this linguistic anxiety and even protests, which, to be fair, is completely justified. Article 29 of our constitution says any section of citizens having a distinct language, script, or culture of its own shall have the right to conserve the same. Conserve, that's the word. Conserve. But then this conservation sometimes mutates into this.
मराठी बोल मी माफी मागतो मराठी माणसाची माफी मागतोय बोल मराठी माणसाची मी माफी मागतो बोल राज साहेबांची मी माफी मागतो राज ठाकरे साहेबांची बोल आज असेल ना की तुम्हाला हिंदी येते मराठीत बोलणार नाही तर तुम्ही तुमच्या गावी जाऊन नोकरी करायची इकडे नोकरी नाही करायची.
It turns into prejudice. It's no longer just about, hey, celebrate my language, why don't you? It becomes, hey, speak my language, नाही तर तुझ्या कानाखाली एक मारीन, तुझं गाल फुलेल मस्त, तुझं कान वाजायला लागेल, हट चाले हट मराठीत बोल. Oof, the raw emotion of threatening someone in your mother tongue. It's so pure, unbeatable. I hate it, but I also love it. Shit. Am I one of those people now? Anyway, this is when we get mobs attacking bank managers, delivery guys, auto walas. That's when we get someone like Raj Thakre who says if MNS ceases to exist, there will be no one left in Maharashtra to fight for the Marathi Manus. This whole thing becomes less about conservation and more about gaining power over a population. So language becomes a weapon to discriminate and create divide within society. All thanks to our lovely political leaders and their party workers. It's worth asking, was it always this way? And if it was this way, wouldn't having one national language kind of solve this entire issue? Well, guess what? 75 years ago, there was a massive debate on this very issue. A drama so intense that it would make our current parliament sessions look like an episode of Tarak Mehta Ka Ulta Chashma. Say hello to... So, here's the big question. If language is this emotionally loaded, politically volatile thing, why didn't India just have one national language at the time of independence itself? Answer? Well, because we tried and it almost broke our country. Let us rewind to 1946. The Constituent Assembly has just been formed. We are in the middle of the partition. There is chaos, and amidst all of this, a very vocal group of leaders want to solve a very important question. What should be the national language of India? Not official, national. Like one language to rule them all. That sort of thing. On one side, there was the Hindi lobby, consisting of people like R.V. Dhulekar, K.M. Munshi, and Purushottam Das Tandon. They were like, the language of India must be Hindi. Not Hindustani, not English, not Urdu, Hindi. Write it in Devanagari script. Full stop. That's what we want. I mean, Purna Viram. Purna Viram. R.V. Dhulekar even went so far as to say people who do not know Hindustani have no right to stay in India. People who are present in this house to fashion a constitution for India and do not know Hindustani are not worthy members of this assembly. They better leave. Replace Dhulekar with someone like Raj Thakre and the language with Marathi. It's kinda same to same, isn't it? Go leave Maharashtra. Go to UP Bihar. This wasn't just a fringe view, by the way. This was literally the opening session of the Constituent Assembly. On the other side, you had what we now call the non-Hindi belt. South Indian states, Bengal, parts of Northeast, Punjab, all those. They were saying, excuse me, we've got Tamil, Kannada, Bangla, Telugu, Assamese, Malayalam. You can't just pretend these don't exist, okay? As I told you earlier, Tamil Nadu, which was then the Madras presidency, had already seen mass protests at this point of time. In the 1930s, against Hindi imposition, people had died to protect their linguistic rights. Suffice to say, the Constituent Assembly was taking all of this very seriously. Especially when you have a bunch of North Indian dude bros trying to pull the same stunt even before our country was officially formed. Yeah, that was not happening. Oh, and other than these two factions, we had the big Diggaj leadership also. Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi both initially supported Hindustani, which is a blend of Hindi and Urdu. Their idea was, let's pick something that both Hindus and Muslims are familiar with. You know, it would be a sign of unity. Hindustani. Hum Hindustani. Hum Hindustani. You see? But even that idea collapsed spectacularly because, well, partition. The Hindi lobby and the Urdu lobby was fighting against each other and crying foul. The Hindi side scrubbed Hindustani of all Persian and Arabic words. The Urdu side scrubbed out Sanskrit and insisted on writing Urdu in the Urdu script. And just like that, a language, Hindustani, also got partitioned. Hindi went one way, Urdu went the other way, just like the country. Oh wait, we aren't done yet because there was one more sort of minor faction. There was this one guy named K. Hanumanthayya. He later became the CM of Karnataka. He hated the fact that our constitution was being written in English. Matlab, he was going on a very different tangent, relevant tangent, but still a tangent. He was like, we wanted the music of the veena or sitar, but here we have the music of an English band. Poetic, tea, muffin, strange, but a poetic thought, I must say. Now my voice sounds like an English band. God damn it. Now it sounds like a sitar or a veena, okay? So deal with it. So, mota, this was the kalesh that was happening in the Constituent Assembly in the very first session when our country was about to be formed. After 3 years of non-stop debating, they still couldn't agree. Every time they came close to a solution, someone would get up and scream, no Urdu, no Devanagari, only Sanskrit. Let's bring back Pali. Actually, my uncle says Prakrit is the real national language. It is like a base language. All that is okay, but no English. But you are talking in English, man. Do you not hear yourself? And your accent is terrible. Yeah, but no English. Let us all learn Sanskrit. Pathantu, pathanti, patanta. Pathanti, pathanti. It was chaos. So what did they finally decide? Our great forefathers and mothers came up with the ultimate jugaad. India will have no national language. We will only have official languages. And not just one, we will have 22 official languages which would be listed in the 8th schedule of the constitution. They also decided that Hindi, which will be written in the Devanagari script, and English would serve as the official languages of the union government. But for 15 years only, there was a deadline, just a temporary thing. Then, in 1963, the deadline was coming up and the government was like, alright boys and girls, it's time to replace English with Hindi. Yay, let's do it. To which the non-Hindi states said, how about no? Massive anti-Hindi protests broke out, especially in Tamil Nadu. Train stations were burned, offices attacked, government was forced to backtrack. That's when Lal Bahadur Shastri introduced the Official Languages Act of 1963 and quietly slipped in a clause that allowed English to continue indefinitely as a working official language. So basically, English survived not because it was loved, it survived because it wasn't Hindi. Isn't that ironic? Amazing. So today in 2025, this is the compromise that holds our multilingual democracy together. We don't have a national language. We have 22 official languages, all equal in the eyes of the constitution. And we use English and Hindi at the center as a matter of convenience, not identity, just to communicate with each other. Varna country kaise chalega? How will we run the country? Nothing else. Which is why if you ever hear someone say Hindi is our national language, just slap them in the face and go,
तू जानता नहीं मेरा बाप कौन है?
okay, no, don't do that. Just politely correct them and tell them we don't have a national language and you can say it in your own lovely language because that would confuse the fuck out of that person. नाही रे, आपली कोणती राष्ट्रीय भाषा नाहीये. तुला कळत नाही का काही? कधी तू शाळेत गेला नाही का? काय बडबड करत राहतो नुसतं? काही नाहीये. हट, हिंदी विंदी आपली राष्ट्रभाषा. हट. That's the official situation we are in today. But our politicians and their power games don't really care about the official situation very much. Honestly, they don't even care about laws very much these days. Power wants uniformity because it's easier to exert control over people when they believe the same things, think the same thoughts, and speak the same language. When they speak the same language, is that accent better now?
Speak the same.
So they keep trying to impose languages on people of a particular region, whether it's nationally or in states. And then we end up having situations like this.
ಕನ್ನಡ ಫಸ್ಟ್. ಈಗ ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ತುಂಬಾ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು.
I will not speak Kannada first.
ಮಾತಾಡೋದೇ ಇಲ್ವಾ?
No.
ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾತಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ?
Hindi.
ಯಾಕೆ ಹಿಂದಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕು? ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್?
Hindi.
Maybe, just maybe, the moral of the story in this whole language debate was that a single language cannot define India. It's worth asking, what does all of this do to us as a people, as a society? What are the possible Okay, just to recap, so far we have looked at language as an identity, language as a political weapon, language as a national issue during the formation of the country, and language as culture. Now let's talk about the people who are actually using this language. Us. Think about the last few years. A Zomato delivery guy in Mumbai gets told he won't be paid because he doesn't speak Marathi. A SBI branch manager in Karnataka is threatened with suspension because he doesn't speak Kannada. A government employee in Tamil Nadu is shouted at by protesters for not erasing Hindi words from a signboard. These aren't edge cases anymore. They seem to be becoming the norm. If you are a migrant, a worker, a newcomer, and you speak the wrong language, then you become a target. The irony is that you're not being punished for something that you did, you're being punished for something that you don't know. You're being punished for not knowing a language. As Master Yoda once said, I can't believe I'm quoting a Star Wars character, but as Master Yoda once said, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. Here is what you need to understand. Language wars are powered by fear. Fear that one day our language will vanish, that we are becoming strangers in our own cities. It's the fear that they, the outsiders with their gibberish words, will come and take over. There is also a very real fear that has taken over that Hindi is now the language of development and it is wiping out our regional culture. Our political parties are just fueling that fear and organizing around it. That is leading to violence on the streets, that is leading to suffering and battle scars for each of us. Language is supposed to be functional. In the purest sense, it exists to help us communicate. But when some people take over language and become gatekeepers, it starts to hurt people. These gatekeepers prevent people from earning a living, moving to other parts of the countries looking for opportunities, and cause intense trauma and distress. It is intense trauma and distress. I like this. It's nice. Intense trauma and distress. And now I feel like I'm insulting another accent. God damn it. What have you done to me, YouTube commenters? This is what philosopher Judith Butler calls performative identity. It is the idea that identity is not something inherent or fixed, but rather something that is constructed and expressed through repeated actions, behavior, and language. Which means language is not just a tool, it is an expression of your identity. I have said this many times and I'll keep saying this again. Language is an expression of your identity. If you don't use the right language, you don't get to belong. These gatekeepers of language don't just demand language compliance, they want public submission. And they want outsiders to be turned into examples to achieve that goal. Because these gatekeepers don't just teach a lesson, they like to humiliate people and make an example out of them. This bank employee who got slapped on camera was turned into an example. He was humiliated in public. He'll remember it for the rest of his life and be traumatized by it. People like him will also share that trauma and live in fear. Next time a customer comes and talks to them in Marathi, they'll want to run away from them in case that customer gets offended. And that's not how a bank or any business is supposed to function. Imagine you're from Bihar, you've moved to Bangalore to find work, you speak Hindi and Bhojpuri, you're good at your job, you work hard, but you don't speak Kannada. Suddenly, you're not just new, you are an outsider. You are less hireable. You are less welcome. On top of that, you are at the risk of being shouted at in public and being humiliated. All of this leads to something called linguistic ghettoization. You've seen it abroad. Indians in South Hall, Little India in Singapore, Edison in New Jersey. I've heard this is where you can live all your life just speaking Gujarati and never even utter how are you in English. I don't know how true it is, but yeah, Edison, interesting. We are kind of doing the same thing here, but at a state level. In Hyderabad, you have Telugu-speaking colonies and North Indian migrant clusters. In Bangalore, entire neighborhoods get known for being too Tamil or too Hindi. In Delhi, we have specific areas with a concentration of Bengali and Tamil population. It happens everywhere. So instead of mixing, we seem to be withdrawing. Instead of becoming neighbors, we are turning into factions. And the more we isolate, the more the fear grows, the harder it becomes to, well, be a country. Unity in diversity just becomes a bullshit, meaningless slogan and we cease to exist as India. And the internet just makes it worse. Let's be honest, most of these language fights, they go viral because they are fights. It's online Kalesh, and who doesn't like to see online Kalesh? The algorithm doesn't reward understanding, it rewards outrage and drama. So our language warriors use that to their advantage, whip out their phones and record the humiliation. What they don't realize or think about is that little by little, one viral video after another, they are turning a small local conflict into a full-blown war. Or maybe that is exactly what they want. I know all of this sounds terrible. It worries me personally. So I've been thinking, is there a way to not let all of this happen? Is there a way forward here? Is there a solution? On that, I have a bunch of thoughts. Political scientist and anthropologist Benedict Anderson had this powerful idea. A nation is not a physical thing, it is an imagined community. What that means is most people in a country will never meet or talk to each other, but they will still feel connected by a shared sense of belonging. It's a socially constructed idea, nationhood, that binds us together. They read the same newspapers, follow the same rituals, celebrate the same festivals, know the same songs, fall in love with the same ridiculous Bollywood celebrities, do the same Tere Naam haircuts because why not? They also understand the same slogans and worship the same political leaders, I guess. Yeah, imagined community. And language is the glue that holds imagination together. So, if we stop speaking with each other, or worse, if you refuse to even try to speak to each other, then we start breaking this concept of shared imagination. We stop being a community. And when that happens, we are not a nation anymore. Yeah, we are just a geography with random made up borders and different factions and people who don't talk to each other. I don't like that. So what do we do? The first one is pretty simple. Stop treating language like a purity test. Stop seeing it as some sort of a character flaw. Tell me something. When babies learn to talk, do you mock them? Do you berate them for not knowing the language? Do you humiliate them in public by slapping them around? Okay, if you do that, then you're a horrible parent, but I'm going to assume you are not a horrible parent because I like my community, my nerd friends here, and I hope they are nice people. You don't beat your kid for slipping up when they are trying to speak in a language because they are learning. And you laugh with them, you become playful, encourage them despite the mistakes that they make. Now, tell me something. Are you willing to do that with an adult? A random stranger? A delivery guy who doesn't understand your language? If your answer is no, then you are a part of the problem. You are on your way to becoming a language gatekeeper, the self-appointed bouncer of linguistic purity disco clubs. So I'm going to try and stop you right there. It doesn't have to be like this because the alternative isn't that hard. It just requires effort and a little bit of patience. Treat people who are learning a new language in a new place like you treat children. Be playful, get amused, but stop humiliating them. Your linguistic pride should not be a measuring contest for no reason. In fact, by being aggressive and humiliating people who don't speak your language, you are driving them away. Trust me, this has happened to me. Back in school, I had this horrible Hindi teacher. He was like a villain straight out of a Bollywood movie. I got beaten up for not putting a dot on top of hai. So I wrote hai instead of hai. And I was beaten up in front of the entire class for 15 minutes. And this piece of shit was my class teacher for 3 years. 3 years! You know what the result of that was? As a 20-year-old who came to Delhi, I hated speaking in Hindi. It became a language of violence for me. A language that is used by people who hate me and want to beat me up. Deep down inside, I still hesitate to do videos in Hindi. I can't read scripts properly because I have this bizarre fear that creeps up in my head that if I misread something or mispronounce something, someone will come and beat me up. That prick of a Hindi teacher, my Hindi teacher in school, ruined an entire language for me. And I'm still trying to come to terms with it. It is a little better. I used to hate the language before. Now I'm mildly okay with it. But suffice to say, I have Hindi PTSD. And you know what makes it worse? Some of you, yes, you, I see you. I see your comments under my videos. Arey, make videos in Hindi na, bro. More people will understand it that way. The people who actually need to understand will understand if you speak in Hindi. What is this English, yeah? Let me ask you this. How the heck is that my problem? I'm doing videos in English for an audience that understands English. I know there are a lot of people who speak and understand English, and I'm happy just doing that. I don't want to talk to people who understand Hindi because that is not my audience and I don't give a shit. Hindi for me right now in my head is a language of violence. Everywhere I go in Delhi right now, every aggressive car person who is screaming at me speaks in Hindi. I have started to do that. Whenever I want to be violent and aggressive, I use Hindi. And I don't think you can change that for me because my Hindi teacher kind of made sure of that growing up. Hindi could have become a language of opportunity for me instead of English. But no, now it's just a regional functional language that I use to get around in Delhi and from time to time be aggressive when I want to. Nothing else. You see what I mean? Stop making people hate your language by humiliating them and unleashing violence on them. Verbal or physical. Just be kind maybe? Try to be kind. Wait, there's another thing you can do. What if you are a migrant who is moving to another place and ends up in a community with a different language? My advice to you is simple. Learn 5 sentences in that language. Number 1, I am hungry. Number 2, I am thirsty. Number 3, where is the toilet? Number 4, can you take me to XYZ address? Number 5, please don't beat me, have mercy. If you're in Maharashtra, let me do my bit and help you out with Marathi. 1, मला भूक लागली आहे. 2, मला तहान लागली आहे. 3, टॉयलेट कुठे आहे? Alternatively, in Mumbai, you can just look at someone and go, संडास? And they'll know what you mean. 4, मला या addressवर घेऊन जाता का? 5, मला मारू नका, माझ्यावर दया करा. Hot tip, if you see a person get even mildly aggressive and hostile, just throw that 5th line in with the right amount of pathos. मला मारू नका, माझ्यावर दया करा. प्लीज माझ्यावर दया करा, कृपया दया करा माझ्यावर, मला मारू नका. Works like a charm in many situations. Worked for me with my PT teacher all the time. Yeah, he was another prick who made me develop a trauma for sports. But that's a story and a rant for another day. काफी trauma हुआ है guys school में. Before I go, I have one last quote to shove into your multilingual brain. This is one of my favorite quotes by Nelson Mandela. If you talk to a man in a language they understand, that goes to their head. If you talk to him in his language, it goes to their heart. And if there is one thing I know, we could use more heart in this country these days. We just don't have enough. For me, Marathi is still my language of emotion. Hindi became my language of trauma. And English became my language of escape. But I still try to make Hindi my language of opportunity. I want that option. I just don't want it shoved down my throat and beaten up for not using it correctly. Here's a fun thing you can do in the comment section. Write a line in your language of emotion and one in your language of regional opportunity, the one that is in your environment. Let's see how many languages show up from around the world. It's always fun to confuse the hell out of people who didn't see the entire video. When they go down to the comments, they'll see, ye kya ho raha hai? Super fun. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you have liked, shared and subscribed already. My last video, which was on why the world hates India, has done really well. Especially I've been reading the comments obsessively. Some very interesting things. Of course, some of them are like mera accent galat hai. Like I don't speak in the particular accent, but I can't help it. This is how I speak in normal everyday life. This is how I speak English. If you find it too strong, I'm sorry, it's just something that I can't help. I hope you understand that. But other than that, I got a lot of international friends now. Thank you so much for watching this channel. I heard so many of you say that you stumbled on that video because the algorithm showed it to you. I'm glad. I've been trying this for 1.5 years now. I have made a ton of other essay videos also. You might want to check them out. My series of essay videos is called Bunch of Thoughts, so you can check that out. Another thing you can check out is called Modi Review. It is a documentation of 10 years of the Narendra Modi government. So if in case you are interested in politics and want to understand our country better and our political situation better, then you can go and see that. I would really appreciate it if you become a member. I do live streams on Friday at 9. I do a live stream which is general, but every week I do 2 live streams which are members only, and I give news updates based in India during that time, and I chill with people. So you might want to check that out as well. Again, thank you. Welcome to my channel. I hope you have fun. I hope I am able to create content that you like. Yeah. See you in the next one. Bye.